The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure has initiated an internal audit into the KZN flood intervention projects. Now, preliminary findings have raised some red flags. They include awards being made to service providers who are owned by employees of the state and 5 quotations exceeding 1 million rand being awarded to the same company. Well, let's get more detail on what these preliminary findings have actually sprung up. And we talk now to the Minister of Public Works, Patricia de Lille, who joins us from Cape Town. Minister, very good morning to you. And I'm hoping that you can enlighten us just a little bit about whether or not your department could potentially get involved in the issue of water infrastructure. There are heightened emotions in KZN at the moment, particularly the Tongaat residents. Have you been asked by your fellow department, the water and sanitation, to intervene in any way around this issue?
Thank you and good morning again. We do have a national disaster management committee where all departments of government report on a weekly basis. And the reports from water will be dealt with by the Department of Water and Sanitation and also the municipalities, because that is where the constitutional mandate is to provide water. But if we as Infrastructure South Africa, if we are asked to assist, we will do so. We have already made available over 300 built environment professionals to the municipalities, like engineers, town planners, and, all the built environment specialists to assist municipalities where they don't have that skill. But we are not directly involved at this stage, except that we have made professionals available to assist with the process.
Yeah, all right. I needed to ask that question, Minister, because we have a current situation taking place in Tongaat. Let's then move the attention to exactly the internal audit that your department has conducted. Preliminary findings already suggesting that there are some state employees whose companies are doing business with the state. How many of these have you found?
First of all, the Auditor General of South Africa, she did a live audit of all the emergency funding after the devastating floods in KZN. And through the findings of the preliminary findings of the Auditor General, she advised us, and we acted very swiftly to try and avoid a repeat of what we've seen with the PPEs during COVID. And we then started interacting by first stopping all payments to all the service providers until the Auditor General can confirm that they were properly appointed. We also use our own internal audit to start collating and collecting all the documents and invoices that confirmed the preliminary findings of the Auditor General. So the next step now is that we will now complete our internal investigation by our internal audit, and thereafter there need to be consequences. Because it's very sad that, excuse me, it's very sad that during the time of disaster, that, we didn't learn from the COVID experience, that this just continued to happen. Yes, 5 quotations that were exceeding 1 million rand were given to the same service provider. Some of the service providers were not on the database of National Treasury. The quoted services that they quoted us was way over the amounts that you would expect. So there was like an increase. So government didn't really get value for money because we're paying more than what we were supposed to be paying. And also some of the projects were not completed within the stipulated time.
Yeah.
So last week, the Deputy Minister and myself went for an oversight visit to KZN to go and check on the progress. On the other side, most of the state-owned buildings that were affected by the floods, they are about 85% completed. The Air Force base also completed. We advised the Air Force that since the summer rains will be coming, they must make sure that they clear their gutters, that they clear the stormwater drains. So we will soon be going back there to go and hand over some of the completed rural bridges that we also visited last week.
Yeah.
But it's very disappointing, the initial findings of the AG. We have to act very, very swiftly.
Talking about acting swiftly, Minister, let's focus the attention for a moment on these 5 quotations given to the same service provider, and that service provider or that company, is that the company that has direct links to the state employee, and in which department does this state employee work?
Well, what we have found so far in the preliminary findings that these awards were made to the same director of the same company. And maybe in the next 2 weeks, we will be able to confirm, once we have gone through all the documentation, the name of the director of the company, the names of the other companies, the staff members that are doing business with the state, because staff members must declare up front whether they've got interest in any service provider. So these are the initial findings that we are now busy investigating. So I won't be able to give you the complete information there.
Yeah. I suppose that then also confirms that no individuals yet have been directly linked, because the public would want to know whether these people are still on their jobs, because the understanding, or at least the expectation, would be that they must be immediately placed on precautionary suspension.
Yes, most definitely. I will assure the public that, the lesson that we've learned out of the PPP scandal should not be repeated, and that we should take the people in our confidence right up front. And so that information will be made public, because we must begin to also use this information to our advantage and expose people, name them in public. Hopefully that will act as a deterrent. I'm not sure, but I hope so. And we have to follow due process. We also have to hear the other side. The implicated companies and employees have also got a right to be heard and to state their side of the case. So we can't, before these processes are concluded, release the information completely. We're only releasing now the findings, and so the investigation will produce the detailed results.
Pertaining to your specific department, Minister, you've mentioned that at least some of the work in other projects is about 85% complete.
Yes.
By when do you think your specific department will be done with the interventions in KZN?
We can't say we will be done at any point in time, because, as we do the renovations and the repairs, you also find some other impacts of maybe on a structure. And therefore, in some cases, we have to replace those structures. But in the next 2 weeks, we will be giving a further update when I go back for another visit, because the people in KZN, they deserve to be attended to as soon as possible. We have also just released 4 parcels of land to the Human Settlements and the Human Development Agency for them to start with the resettlement of people out of walls. There are still languishing in walls in KZN. So it's a joint effort, government together with the KZN provincial government. They have also released some land to resettle the victims of the floods, and therefore we report on a weekly basis of what we are doing to the National Disaster Centre in Pretoria.
All right, that's the Public Works and Infrastructure Minister, Patricia de Lille. Let's leave it there for the time being. Thank you very much for your time.